Alright, so today on Tabletop Talk, we're going to be talking about a game called Brushfire. And this game right here is an anthropomorphic game. It's got animals in it, and they look kind of like humans, so you can play little animals. And this is going to be a theme for the next couple episodes. We're going to be doing a lot of anthropomorphic games. This is the first one we're going to be going over. Now, full disclosure, I have played this game. I played a couple demo games, but we haven't really gotten into this game, and we're going to show you why here in a bit. So, Brushfire, I believe, is a local game here in Florida. I think they have some other stuff. They've cooperated with a couple of companies, but it's a historical game that's set with animals, like the Prussian Wars, European Wars, and we have several different items here to go over. Whenever you buy the game, you get it in this like little VHS tape for the minis, and it looks like this.
I like on the back. Artwork not final.
Artwork not final, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a very early rough draft.
Yeah.
And it typically comes, this is the quick start rule set. And the reason why I have the quick start rule set is because I cannot find like actual rules for this game. I've played a couple demo games of this game with the creators, and it was okay, but it's a very, very stereotypical, classical, like 90s style historical game. One of the aspects of this game that I know about is the armor. Sometimes guys can't penetrate the armor. It's not like you roll and then I roll and then you take your damage and stuff. It's like you roll and you have to stack your attacks in order to penetrate, to overcome somebody's armor, or you have to do a chain of attacks and like build up on them, and then the math gets really complicated, and it's like just to do one thing, and that was like not my favorite part of the game.
And that might be historically accurate, but yeah, it would make for some rough gameplay.
Yeah, so along with that, we have this side piece. This is called Historia in Rodentia, and this is a campaign setting, and I bought this thinking, oh, cool, I can play the RPG, and I can use all my minis, and I can still stay in the same setting, but this is not a complete book. This is just a campaign setting, and you have to have a main book that uses a legend rule set for the RPG. And legend rule set is not the same. It's not in the same thing. I think it's like actual humans or fantasy or something to that effect. So I was like, ugh, and it was just like one thing on top of another, and it's like I kind of gave up on this game after a while. But it does have some cool aspects to it. Each of your characters has a card. We'll do some close-ups of these, but each of your characters has these playing cards with all their stats on it and their special abilities. And I believe these are the Spaniards, and then I have some French guys here. Some French cards. And so when I got this box, I had another box, and this is the box, and I opened it up, and it got started, and I got real excited, and this is basically this cover, and this one actually has artwork on the back, and it tells you who all you have, and I'll show you some close-ups, but the miniatures come in like a gazillion pieces. They're mostly metal, like here's a metal mouse. But he has no arms, no weapons, no tail. And there's a lot of cast metal, and then they have a couple of resin guys. This is a capybara, and he's actually like a resin. It's not even plastic. It's kind of like that cast stuff that you pour, you mix as a liquid.
Which, yeah, that stuff can get kind of brittle.
Well, it doesn't glue very well.
It doesn't glue.
And you glue it, and you glue it, and it just falls apart. It uses these, what are these, D8s or D12s?
Those are D10s.
Yeah, the whole system uses D10s to roll your attacks. And, so
the miniatures are kind of fiddly, is what you're getting at?
The miniatures are too fiddly. I mean, I've done a lot of miniature modeling, and they were too much for me. I was like, that's it, I'm done. I can't do these anymore. So that's really the reason why I gave up on these, is the miniatures were just impossible to assemble. And then once you did get them assembled, don't drop them.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to be constantly maintaining them.
And that's one of the things about the old school metal miniatures. If you played back in like the 80s and stuff, and they weren't the one piece, you basically had to pin those things, and they were a nightmare. And like you said, if you dropped them, you basically, they never looked as good, and they looked beat up, and yeah, there was not a fun.
Now here's a metal Void miniature. I don't know why these are in here, but I got this Void miniature. It's all metal. It's all one piece, and he looks cool. And you can paint these guys up, and they look great. They got lots of detail in them, and they're not fantasy, but they're science fiction.
Yeah, and those old school metal one piece, you know, with a slotted base. You're not getting as dynamic of poses, and you're not getting as cool of things, but they work pretty well. And yeah, you know, you slap a clear coat on top of that, you know, and you drop it. It stays together pretty well. But yeah, I can see how this would be very fiddly and hard to.
So Riley, this is an older game, so I've had this game for quite a few years now. But Riley, what does eBay say about this game?
Okay, so I looked up a little bit on eBay, and the prices on it were kind of varied. But you could pick up some of these boxes for like less than $20, probably more than 12. Obviously, that's going to change the longer we get away from this video. You just had to look for Brushfire. Unfortunately, there's a Pokemon set by that same name, so you get a lot of Pokemon stuff when you look it up. But yeah, they look like you could get a warband or a group for a little less than $20. And then some of the individual characters were like 10 to 12 plus, you know, shipping and handling, depending on where they were coming from.
$10.
Yeah.
For one dude.
One dude. I mean, and there are other games like, you know, like these that $10 is, it's a little on the high side, you know.
Yeah. Well, this isn't a mass-produced game either. Like this is a couple of guys in their garage want to start a game company. Now I remember when I bought these at a convention from the guys who built the game, and I think they were like around $35 for a kit. And I got a little bit of a special on it, like, because I bought 2 sets, but it was not cheap to get. But we're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna do a couple of close-ups, and that is Brushfire for right now. Alright, so here's a couple of close-ups of the cards. And this is the captain. I believe he's the capybara. And I believe these are Spanish. And there's 2 different versions of the capybara card, so that you can have like a strong version and a weak version. And then we got some little mice, little conscript mice, and a lancer. So here's the French team. The French team consists of some shrews, or some moles. Then here's the badger for the British team. And this is a stoat, I believe is what this is. He's a fusilier. So you can tell that this is like based off of a historic game. Here are some of the miniatures. These are the miniatures that I broke loose. And even for a simple mouse here, there's like one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces here for one little guy. Now all those pieces are like a little bit of options, because he's got a bow and he's got a sword and a shield version. But here's my lancer, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces here. So even for like a really simple guy, you have 4 pieces. Now here's the capybara here, and he's resin, and He's a little simpler. He's got 3 pieces here. He's got his 2 arms and his head. But I tried gluing these on, and I just, they won't stick for some reason. I mean, you might have to sand them down, but they don't have a good fitting because where his arm goes, it's rounded here, but his arm is flat, so it has this rocking motion, and there's just not a good fit for these guys. They don't go together very solidly. So especially if you're got it coming out like this, like, it's just not a tight enough fit for you to get a good glue on it. So you would have to use like some green stuff or something, and it just wasn't working out for me. Here, I'll show you one more guy, and this is, I believe this is the Badger, and he has the same issue. It's like it's concaved here, and then it's concaved here, so he really just has a very poor fit. There's not enough surface area. And he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Plus the base is 10 pieces. Now I think there's like several heads in here for whatever reason, but there's a lot going on with these guys that make them difficult to assemble. Now here's what an unopened box looks like when you get it. And I'll open it up, and it's well protected. And here's a set of cards for these guys. And I got these guys because these are mounted. They're mounted on little kiwis here. They got these little kiwi guys here. And once again, there's 5 pieces for this kiwi. And you get a couple of them. And this is the Kiwi Rider right here. So that's our review for Brushfire. Let us know what you think, and let us know if you have any experience playing this game. And thanks for watching. The after show.
So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, the resin stuff, you can buy these kits, and they're silicone mold kits, and you can basically cast whatever you want to. But if it's too many like ridges and stuff, as you pull it out when it hardens, sometimes you'll rip the silicone mold. I had a friend, Jason, and he made a whole bunch of skulls. The skulls are pretty simple, and you can just pop them in and out. We try to do like the boar's heads from like the Games Workshop Orc, and the first couple looked good, but after that it started just ripping that silicone mold as you pulled it in and out. And you can put stuff in there to release and stuff, but it just didn't seem to work that well. And it had almost the same texture as
the capybara guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the artwork on this. That's what like really caught my eyes. Like the artwork looks great, and looking at it now, like this was like 10 years ago. I mean, looking at it now, it's like it's very plain, but it kind of has a homemade look. This looks like so much better, like this the shading.
Yeah.
You know, compared to this where it's like just primary colors. But it's like I really like the concept of it, and I was like at the con, you know, and it's like you got money to burn when you're at the con. It's like yeah, let's get some of this.
Well, and I mean, it looks pretty cool. I mean, yeah, a little dated now, but
yeah,
on its surface it looks cool. The other thing is, I'm just not a fan of anything with long metal spears or long metal anything. Just because, I mean, one, they bend. It's like they design them to bend.
Yeah, it's like a piece of wire, but more fragile.
And then the problem is when they bend, that primer just cracks right off.
So all that paint that you put on them is just gone.
It's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
I saw a guy online, and what he does is he takes like the bristles from your broom, and he'll replace the metal pipes with that, and the bristles, they bend. and they flex, so he doesn't have to worry about so much, them bending. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I've never tried it, but I think that would be a kind of a good idea to try.
Broom straw.
Yeah, yeah. And you just buy like cheap Walmart, brooms, and they have like 100 bristles on them at least.
A gazillion bristles.
Yeah. So you're just sitting there, you clip, 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 and bam, you're good for like ever. And if you ever run out, you're like, oh, got to go to the store, buy another $5 broom or $10 broom, whatever, and I'll be good for another whatever year and a half, 2 years.
That's a lot of spears.
That is a lot of spears, though. But yeah. Was it a lot of the original Privateer press, the War Machine and stuff like that?
Yeah.
They were really
bad about that.
Like, I had this one, it was probably one of the coolest miniatures I owned. And, like, literally, she had her hand, right, and there was no hole in her hand. And the spear came one side, and then the spear tip.
Oh, wait. Was that we were playing that?
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember you took like 2 or 3 days.
I like spent
to get that
days.
thing. Something Witch de Negra or something.
I forget what she was. A Crix. She was like the Crix.
The black. The witch girl.
Yeah, and she was super cool. She looked super cool. She was. The rest of the miniature was fun, but literally, the spear went from her hand down to her foot. So that part was legit. That part was easy. But then on the top, there was no hole or anything, and then it just had a little bit of a more stick, and then the spear tip.
Wasn't it like a giant? Was that the giant sickle, or was that a different girl?
No, I think that character also came with a sickle, but the one I had, she had a spear, and like I literally spent days trying to like dig into her hand to like give a little bit of room to just stick that in there, and that didn't work. So then I tried. We ended up using what's that wire that you use for flowers? Flowering wire. And basically just wrapped it around it and used green stuff and made it look like there's like electric energy going around it. It looked okay. But I just remember I bought that set and I stared at it for like, I don't want to say like 2 weeks, and then I don't know how to do this. And then I put it away, and then years later, you're like, hey, let's play some War Machine. And I'm like, I've got a Warband, I think.
Yeah.
And then I pulled it out, and I was like, oh, it's this one. and then you bought me the troll guys, the Trollkin.
Right, the Trollkins.
And I was like, oh, this is so much easier. This is like playing orcs, but
Yeah, and I think with that game I also cheated because I got some of the off games, like the football game or something, to make my War Machine. No, I didn't play War Machines, but we did make some for somebody else.
Yeah.
And but as it went, it's like the miniatures got less fiddly.
Yeah.
They got different options. Yeah. Like they had plastic options instead of all metal.
And some people hate on the plastic options, but I kind of like them.
They're way easier to work with.
And they're lighter. And one of the big problems with metal miniatures is just when you run around and do stuff with them, they seem to flake off on any pokey parts. Yeah, they come right off. If you buy the brush-on primer, you can kind of fix it and touch it up, but oh man.
Yeah, and with the plastic ones too, when you drop them, they tend to bounce and roll. Not
yes.
And then whatever it fell, if it was something fragile, it's bent.
Yeah.
Or the paint just chips right off. But a plastic one has a little bit more. It's a little more forgiving.
It gives a little.
And it's lighter, so it has less that energy. Once it hits the ground, it's not hitting quite as hard. So
exactly.
And rattling around in these kind of containers and stuff, it's a little better.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you, yeah. And these look cool. Like I'm with you. Like I probably would have bought them too, and would have been like, "This is the coolest thing ever."
Yeah.
And then when I got them home, I started to really look at them and figure out how I was going to do it. I would have been like, "Oh, this is."
Yeah, and it's one thing when I do have one completed guy here,
and he looks cool.
Yeah,
he looks cool.
And even him, I think I had to do his arms, and maybe his head. But you can see how you can tell his arms are totally bolted on. They don't look like part of his body.
Yeah.
But that was the one. I think that was the guy I started with. I'm like, yay! Oh, this isn't so bad. And then I got to another guy, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and like you, there is no like imprint to like. You need some way to like, lodge
make
it
him
in there
fit.
a little bit.
And that guy, he looks like he could have just. They could have easily made that guy one mold, one piece. There's nothing special about that guy except for maybe like his sword is coming out, but.
Well, even if they just put a little dent in his shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
and then put a little bit of a pop out so that it pops in there, and I think that's one thing that the more modern guys do better, is they realize you got to put this thing together, and I don't know. I don't. Once you get good at pinning, like I think it becomes like a really essential tool, but with plastics. Unless they're really big plastics, you don't really need to do pinning, which is nice.
Yeah, here, check this guy out. This is, I don't know what this is, but here's his tail. You tell me how you're going to put that tail.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay, so this one does have a little bit of a divot, so you can kind of tell.
Yeah, but what is that divot going into?
It's like, that's.
It's like there's no way that's going to hold up to actually playing with it. I mean,
no.
maybe if you got it in there and it's just going to be on your shelf for looks, that's fine, but in combat, that tail's not
Yeah, you knock this over, boom, it's falling apart. Yeah, you have to pin this. Yeah, man, yeah. This reminds me of trying to do miniatures back in the the late 80s and early 90s, man. Which, I mean, hey, there's some cool nostalgia to that, but there's also some, dude, you don't remember how messed up it was.
Yeah. Now this guy's like, see, that's the thing. Is like they got a lot of options. This guy's got a crossbow.
That's cool.
He's got like a flintlock.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll be on the boards and stuff, and people will be like, "How do you make this work?" And everyone's like, you can tell like all the older guys, they're like in their 30s and 40s. They're like, you pin it, and then these guys are like, maybe in their 20s. They're like, what's pinning? Like, was it that I was born in darkness. You just merely adopted it. But yeah, no, man. Like, yeah, you would have to pin this.
Yeah, that guy's not got an arm or something. Oh, it's in the side.
It's a pretty cool mini, though. I mean. If you got it all working.
See, if they just made it like a little bit better, a little bit less pieces, this guy looks really cool because he's like kind of French, and he's got like that French uniform on with the bright blue or red or however you want to do it, like British or red, I guess. That bright blue, pop him and put some gold on him, and have his like shoulder straps white. That guy, and he's got like a little fur cap, like the tall hat. And one of those French hats that with the little fur on it. It'd be really cool.
I also used to think that the rim bases were the coolest thing ever. Until I started playing games with them.
And?
Well, because like you don't get a good grip on them.
Oh yeah, same way. They're rounded.
Especially if you do because you're going to do the rim smooth, and so if you put any kind of clear coat on it, you can't grab it by the base. And the Games Workshop.
You don't want to manhandle the miniature
itself. You don't want to grab the
miniature.
yeah. So it. Yeah, I'm not. It's not bad. Like it's not like a deal buster. But I'm not really a fan of the round. It looks cool. Like for display purposes, I think that looks way cooler. But for actual gameplay, I've never been a big fan of that.
Yeah. What is it? War Machine.
Yeah, War Machine. War Machine was all, and some of the, and a lot of my Troll King guys, they got a hand like this up in the air, so it's almost like, yeah, I'm gonna grab them by the hand. I'm gonna grab them by the same spot. It's like they're telling you, grab them by that spot. And
speaking of which, I know this isn't a video about that game, War Machine. We'll probably do a different video for that. But I remember I had, I think it was the Red Russian Girl. And she was, spinning a sickle over her head, and it was like this over her head. And the arms came together, and then they had this long sickle, and it's like a big thing on the down here, and like where the wrists came together. That's where you had to glue it. And it's like how it's like balancing like one of those like a teeter totter on top of a needle, you know. And it's like how is this? And it's never gonna stay together. And I think it was so bad I just ended up buying a different version of that miniature where she was like holding the weapon a little bit easier.
Yeah, I had what was it? Was it Infinity? There was some sniper, and she like was holding the gun like this in front of her face, and so like you had, and then her arms were detached at the elbows, so it was like you had to like you said, balance it just perfect. And I must have glued that thing like 4 or 5 times, and it would almost get there, and then just drop. It would just, and oh man, it was a nightmare, man.
Yeah.
I think if I were to do it all over, and I got it primed, and that was the other thing too, I got it primed. I was like, I finally did it. I got it primed, and then it got knocked or something. Just run out. Hindsight being 2020, I would have gone with that. The wire from the flowery wire, and just wrap that stuff up. It doesn't look as cool, but it can work pretty well. I
know with your Trollkins, you had some guys with spears, and you rolled out some green stuff and wrapped it around some of their weapons and made it. I don't know if you made it look like rope or vines. I think it was vines or something.
Yeah, I did a little bit of both. I took one of those rollers and I gave it a little bit of texture too, so it didn't look. And I like to add when you do your miniatures, I always like to add a little bit of extra green stuff here and there to make extra things. So that way, when you're playing with it, you know it's yours. Because you say, oh, okay, I know this is mine because he's got the extra strap. And so if anyone ever like tries to walk away with them,
especially like starter kit guys,
they all look the same. And just adding a little extra thing here or there makes it a little cooler, makes it a little bit yours. And then other people look at theirs and they go, why does mine not look as cool? And there's something kind of fun about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I like the other thing with green stuff. A lot of times if they have like fiddly wrists and stuff, and they're holding something, a lot of times you can wrap it,
make it look like a bracelet,
and then wrap it around their wrist and make it look like and you get
that extra support.
You get that extra support, and that the green stuff or the gray stuff, it's pretty legit. I mean, it's with the glue and that and the primer and the paint, you're gonna get a pretty solid connection. So I like to do that. It's like one of the tricks I do, and some people kind of pick up on that and realize they think it's cool that I'm adding more stuff to it, and other people look at it like, oh, you're kind of cheating, and I'm like, it works, man. So.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. I'm gonna kick you out now.
All right.
Because I gotta go.
Have fun at work.